Hey, all right. Mm-mm. Um, all right. Hey, so I've got a little hot water with lemon today. My throat has been a little bit congested, and I know for sure that it's been because I've been eating I don't want to say like crap, but I've definitely been doing more like candy and Pringles and stuff than normal. And it's kind of giving me some, whenever I eat stuff that I'm not supposed to, I get little mini, like, honestly, I don't even want to call it a flare-up because I've had, big flare-ups with like inflammation and stuff, but I get like little when I'm my body kicks up like inflammation and like mucus production whenever I'm eating like processed foods or sugar. So I try and stay away from those as much as possible, but like sometimes you just gotta, well, you don't have to, but sometimes I just like to eat the candy bar or the Pringles and end up dealing with the symptoms later, because my health is so much better now than it used to be, which is fantastic. I went from like major AI flare-ups to very, very little symptoms. So I kind of test the waters a little bit sometimes because, I don't know, I like being bad, I guess. But anyways, welcome. We are starting, hold on, let me get my glasses cleaning cloth here. All right, so my glasses cleaning cloth had oil on it, and hopefully y'all didn't hear that. If you did hear that, then sorry, you might as well move in. But my apartment isn't gigantic, so you literally like hear everything. I hear my neighbors talking, stomping around. I think I got new upstairs neighbors because they keep different hours, and they wake up at different hours, or maybe they just change their habits and lifestyle as the people that used to live above me. Because now in the morning when I'm playing music at like 10, which sometimes 9, but on my late days I'll play music at like 9 or 10, and I've been getting like the stomps on the ceiling, kind of just waiting for them to come down so I can see who it is, because I have no idea who lives above me now. Gosh, oh my goodness. My glasses. Can I see? Hold on, let me try and wash these again. Oh my gosh, this is so delayed. All right, that's better. They're finally all clean. It has been a night of follies here. Like, couldn't find my slippers. I literally have no idea where they are. Like, I mentioned that my apartment isn't huge, so I mean, there aren't really a lot of places that they could be hiding, but they're still hiding nonetheless. And my glasses, boom, 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 still working on those. You know, it's so funny, like whenever, this might be a little macabre, but whatever. So whenever anything weird happens with my glasses or, this is gonna lead into another story, but whenever anything strange happens to my glasses, it always reminds me of when my father passed. You know, DMT, DMT, the God molecule or whatever. Before you die, your brain releases DMT, from what I hear, and before he passed, because there was he didn't want anyone with him in hospice. He just kind of wanted that to be a private thing. Maybe he just wanted to die by himself, which is interesting. No one else I know really ever wants to die alone, but that was his thing. He was a really private person. Cancer son, I suppose. But the hospice nurse said, during that last little kind of phase, that last period, he was saying, "Where are my glasses? They've got my glasses." And he kept asking for his glasses. And now that I kind of know about more about death and just kind of what happens also when people do DMT, it's quite interesting. I've never done DMT before. Seems like it would be interesting, but not really something that I put on the list yet. But there are little elves, I guess, that everybody sees when they do DMT, these little green elves or whatever, or elf people. And I thought that was hilarious that these elves or whatever beings were messing with him and taking his glasses, maybe trying to get him to lighten up. But then what kind of leads me into another story. I hike pretty often. I hike and go trail running, or on nice days out here. There's so many amazing trails. And I went to the trail, gosh, this had to have been before it started getting super cold, a week or two ago maybe. And with nature and grounding myself, I will pray, I'll kind of work through thoughts, problem solve, and all of that. And when I was out there, I got a lot of clarity, maybe new information, or I really put the puzzle pieces together, kind of surrounding my family dynamic. And I got lost on the trail. I mean, not like seriously lost, literally. This is the one that I was at is a trail that's like in the middle of, a major metropolitan city. It's just really huge. I don't know, is Seattle a major metropolitan city? It's a city. But, where was I? Trail. So I got lost on this trail. Before I really start exploring, I always drop a pin on my phone so I can route my way back if I do get lost, because one time I got lost really badly and I ended up in this neighborhood that I didn't recognize and had to walk this like super scary, windy road to find my way back to the main street to get home, or find my way back to the main street, and then from there back to the parking lot. But anyway, so I dropped a pin, I got mini lost, ended up getting a spider bite. Somewhere along the trail, even though I had my tall socks on. But I kind of got lost, and when it came to the portion where I do my like walking meditation and prayer, I was praying for specific people, friends of mine that had kind of been going through stressful situations, and then boom, rerouted back around, going through this kind of family dynamic thing. And as I find my way back to where I wanted to get to, right? There's this this tunnel, this archway that's on the trail, and I kept asking people, I'm like, where's the tunnel? When I'd see other trail walkers, where's the archway? And they were like, I don't know what you're talking about. Are you talking about the beach? And I'm like, no, I'm not talking about the beach. That is obviously a bridge that's by the beach, not a cement tunnel or archway. So anyways, I find the archway. I'm like, thank you, found it. This is where I wanted to go, because I don't know, that space is very calming to me. And then I began walking down the trail again to make my way to the beach, and then back out to the exit, to the trailhead, I think is what trail people call it. But I'm rambling, but there was a fallen tree, like giant, like fallen tree. I wouldn't even, this wouldn't even reach around half of it. And I had to jump over this fallen tree. And there was a big old knob where a branch, I guess, had been cut off previously before the tree fell. And behind the knob were glasses. And I know that it seems silly, but I've thought to myself, what a strange place to find glasses, especially after I had been really digging into and connecting the dots about my family dynamic. It was so strange. But it felt kind of comforting in a way. It felt as if the dots that I were connecting was truth, and that was my symbol from the universe. The fact that I had gotten routed around in the wrong direction and had to kind of take a different path back, and this tree was there that seemed like an obstacle, and I don't know. I feel like there's meaning in everything, that there's no such thing as coincidences, that everything happens for a reason, regardless of how small, you know, the timing of everything. It's quite beautiful, and it honestly keeps me out of a place of nihilism and makes me believe that God is all around us, which is nice. In any case, is this cool enough yet? Mm-hmm. Oh, that feels so nice. Oh my gosh. I can literally like feel my voice drop back into my chest instead of being stuck into my throat. That's so good. I'm gonna check to see what the live time is so I can put a note when this book actually starts. Oh man, 21. No, right here just BSing for 21 minutes. In any case, the spirit of intimacy, starting chapter 3, chapters 1 and 2. We're just kind of setting up the story, introducing us to the Dagara people and how things are in the villages and how it works. Oh my god, I am so in love with lemon water right now. Ugh, obsessed. So, here we go. Do you ever feel like you have like a little knobby or a little lump in your throat and it just won't come out? Chapter 3. The embrace of community. Community is the spirit, the guiding light of the tribe, whereby people come together in order to fulfill a specific purpose. To help others fulfill their purpose and to take care of one another. The goal of the community is to make sure that each member of the community is heard and is properly giving the gifts that he has brought into the world. Without this giving, the community dies. And without the community, the individual is left without a place where he can contribute. The community is that grounding place where people come and share their gifts and receive from others. When you don't have community, you are not listened to. You don't have a place you can go to. Ooh. Oh. You know, funny thing, I never really watched the lives back. I don't watch the lives back. And I listened to a little bit of the live yesterday and I realized how hard I was breathing. I breathe so hard when I'm reading. And I don't know why. It's like I take these big old yoga breaths. But feeling all tight in the throat. When you don't have community, you are not listened to. You don't have a place you can go to and feel that you really belong. You don't have people to affirm who you are and to support you in bringing forward your gifts. This disempowers the psyche, making you vulnerable to consumerism and all the things that come along with it. Also, it leaves many people who have wonderful contribution. I promise you I can read. I promise I can. Stumbling. Am I nervous? Maybe. Seems like I'm always nervous. I don't know. Also, it leaves many people who have wonderful contributions to make holding back their gifts, not knowing where to put them. And without the unloading of our gifts, we experience a blockage inside, which affects us spiritually, mentally, and physically in many different ways. We are left without a home to go to when we need to be seen. One of the principles of the Dagara concept of a relationship is that it's not private. When we talk about our relationship in the village, the word our is not limited to two. And this is why we find it pretty hard to live a relationship in a modern culture that is lacking true community. In the absence of community, two people are forced to say, this relationship is ours, when in fact, a community should be claiming ownership. The absence of a true community leaves a couple totally responsible for themselves and anything else around them. It narrows down their ways of getting needs met so that their relationship becomes their community. And if it is not able to fulfill this role, then the individuals begin to feel like a failure. It affects the psyche so dramatically that they feel that there is no place for them. What they thought was their support group, their partnership, is unable to satisfy their needs. You know, that actually touches on something that I've been thinking more and more about relationships, is that in our kind of modern American relationship structure, we have a tendency to think that our partner is supposed to be everything, right? Fully be like our best friend as well as our lover and our provider or nurturer. Like, I'm 100% down with the, provider nurturer role, because I feel like there needs to be caretaking and romance in a relationship. But for those other things, like, you need like friends and coworkers and community, and maybe I don't want to bring my crappy day that I had at work to my partner. Maybe I don't. Maybe that's for me to talk about with, my friend. And then my partner can not have to worry about that, you know what I mean? But I don't know. That's something that I'm still really kind of sorting through as I think about relationships more is what I actually expect and what I feel should be expected of me in a romantic relationship context, which is interesting. That also kind of makes me think about third places. If you've heard about third places, like they say that what a lot of us are lacking are that third place, when people used to kind of hang out in communities before like big commutes and all that, and living in the suburbs, commuting into the city, etc. There was like a third place in the neighborhood where people would hang out, whether that was like a pool hall or, you know, a bar or a church group or whatever. Like, it's a place that feels like home, that isn't home or work, that you kind of go to get that stink of the day off of you so that you can come home fully ready to kind of take care of your kids or, you know, take care of your partner when you get there. And that lack of a third place, like a solid third place, is almost problematic when it comes to community forming. But third place concept, that's also something that I'm thinking a lot more about recently. It's very strange to regard two people as a community. Where is everybody else? On my first visit home after moving to the United States, I told my mother What? Oh, boom, boom, back it up. There was a hyphen in the word. I'm like, what word is that? I told my mother Jess Maladoma and I lived in this house. She thought I was the craziest person she'd seen. To her, living like this is inconceivable. It means that there isn't any kind of outside energy coming to give support and strength to our relationship, and that we are basically left on our own to figure things out, which is absolutely impossible. You know, with one person, it's hard to see very far. Two people, you can see a little more. But if you have a whole group of people around really caring about you and telling you, you are doing the right thing, we want you to be around, give us your gifts, it helps you fulfill your purpose. Even the most stubborn people will get beyond their stubbornness in order to work on their life purpose. But with just two people, it's really too much to ask, or even with the nuclear family. In my own marriage, I bring as many people as I can into the relationship. We also get back home as much as possible. How do we bring people in? We constantly monitor the relationship and, through ritual, create community to give us the support we need. This fuels us so that we can continue what we are doing here. When there are collisions in my marriage, I call upon this community. I know that without their help, the fire of our relationship might have been extinguished. Love that. Here in the West, we may never have the kind of community we had back in Africa, but at least we can have a sense of it by allowing friends to be part of what we are doing. 15 minutes of communication with others can help in a deep way to make up for a lack of community. Friends and family provide you with a container, a safe container, where you can go if you need support, if you need help with ritual, if you need somebody to give you a hug, if you need to talk to somebody and get another perspective on something. You are free to do whatever you want with the advice they give you, but it helps to bring the spirits of other people into your life. It gives you as many It gives you many more eyes to see and help overcome limitations. Sometimes you will be spiritually blind to something, and a friend can be aware of that very thing. If you don't reach out to friends and family, your reality can be pretty limited. With the input of these people, it widens. Friends and family can also take away from intimate relationships. The blessing of the family is very important when it comes to intimacy, but if there are unresolved issues in one's family, it can affect the life of a person, even in an intimate space with somebody else. When couples don't get the blessing of the community, most of the time it will create a vacuum that you have to work hard to compensate for or heal. Many people have divorced simply because of the pressure from the community, family, or friends who did not support the marriage or even have a spiritual understanding of the relationship. It's hard for a relationship to survive without that support. Some couples stay together, but it takes a toll. Take, for instance, somebody who is in a relationship and needs friends or family to do a ritual for her, or to simply hear her, but doesn't have access to them. Who can she turn to? Therapy is good, but it can only take you so far. It's really hard for therapists to compensate for everything. When you don't have a community of friends and family involved in a relationship, it makes you base all your intimate expectations on your marriage. And that is really hard. That is too much to ask of any one relationship. Of course, your partner is your friend and family, but to receive everything from that person is absolutely impossible. Boom. I know I've read this before, but I have literally, I guess maybe either internalized or forgotten everything in this book, which is so wild. Excuse me. Yeah. You know, I've been to a lot of therapy, and therapists are good. A lot of times they offer you different perspectives, but like for real, a therapist doesn't know you. They don't know you. They may know how the human mind works in most cases, but not even in most cases. But sorry, I'm getting notifications here. But that's based on a very narrow perspective. When you think about even things like undiagnosed ADHD and autism, like trauma, what's the word I'm looking for? Trauma-based coping mechanisms, your life and your family dynamics growing up. I mean, you can explain all day, but unless you find someone who truly gets you, it's super hard. Like, I had a therapist that retired, and I have still been searching for someone who gets me as much as she did. I mean, she was in her 60s, I believe. In her 60s is what she said. But she grew up very similarly to the way that I grew up. Her family dynamic was very similar. Her marriage and divorce were very similar to my own. And we were able to relate on that in such a beautiful way. Also, finding a Black therapist is really hard. I mean, there are not as many as one would hope. And I really feel like having a shared cultural experience when you are in therapy is super duper important. Like, I mean, not to discount anyone else's training or whatever, but no one understands what it's like growing up like black, aside from another black person. Nobody knows. There are so many subtleties involved. No one knows what it's like growing up being a woman, aside from other women. Nobody knows what it's like leaving an abusive relationship, no matter how much they've studied, or what post-relationship narcissistic abuse looks like, aside from someone who's actually dealt with it. Like, no one knows what it's like having kids unless you've had kids. I could go on for days, but having a therapist that has lived like you is so insanely valuable. And even then, they still can't understand absolutely everything. I mean, honestly, she was a blessing, and she truly did understand everyone, or everything. Not everyone. She understood everything that I was going through and understood me very thoroughly. And I had so many breakthroughs, and she helped me with so many things. So I'm still searching for someone that can relate to me on a better level. But that kind of wraps around to why community is so important, and finding people and friends that are different in different ways so they can offer a different perspective, but also similar to you in certain ways. It's like, oh my gosh, like Girlfriends. If you've ever seen the show Girlfriends, I loved that show because everyone was so different, but they were able to kind of come together and help each other and kind of expand each other's worldviews and teach each other lessons in so many different ways. And, you know, that's why it's so important to have a broad variety of friends and family members and large communities where you can have like the spiritual friend and like the slutty friend. I'm not saying slutty in a bad way. Like, she's been I and I've been her, so not a bad thing. The crazy spiritual friend, you know, she is I and I'm her. Not a bad thing. You know, the corporate friend and the, you know, the straight-laced friend and the quiet friend and the karaoke friend. It's so amazingly important. I get excited just thinking about the beauty of community. Yeah. I love it. Anyways, so when people get their friends and family involved, they can make intimacy work. But people, you know, they think things are private and that they have to keep everything to themselves. Keeping everything private usually kills a relationship. Most of the time, our crises are not complicated. When we keep them private, they grow fatter every day, and then they start to strangle us. So we must be open to other people in order for our relationships to work. I notice that many people who are in women's groups, for instance, or men's groups, are able to put aside the fear of talking with others about their problems. And I think this is good. Problems in relationships will always be with us, But to let fear of sharing threaten your future is ridiculous. People in the West can create a sense of community in their cities just as people in West Africa have. They can do this by providing one another with continuous support. Each of us needs something to hang on to. That's why you have all these small communities here and there. A group of women working on social issues, a group of men, and all these small groups pursuing a common goal. They are attempts to recreate a piece of that greater community that used to be and that has been destroyed. The only difference is that most of these communities don't focus on spirit. They tend to leave spirit outside of their activity, which is a mistake. It's another way of saying, we are in control, when in fact, a true community must be based on spirit. Spirit should be the leader and the guide for everybody in a community. Honestly, I forgot how much I love this book. I'm so sad that I haven't picked it up in so long, but nothing is a coincidence. Everything is on time, right? And it's like, this makes me like excited. I have so many ideas running through my head right now, and my heart is so happy. I literally feel like I'm gonna cry. My heart is so happy reading this book. One can argue that churches constitute such a community in the West. That would be the case if there were a way for churches to empower individuals. Then we would be able to approach the kind of community we are talking about with the village. But people do not go to church to reaffirm that spirit is inside of them and that everyone is directly connected to spirit. You won't find a church where everyone gives out the Eucharist to one another. It may be hard for people who have lived all their life in the West to regard everything they own as belonging to the whole community. But this is the case in the village. As a result, each person in the village contributes to the well-being of others. When you have a child, for instance, it's not just your child. It's a child of the community. From birth onward, the mother is not the only one who is responsible for a child. Anybody else can feed and nurture the child. If another woman has a baby, she can breastfeed any child, and it's perfectly all right. Sometimes, when a mother wants to see her child, she can't because so many people are caring for him. I remember I used to trick my sisters all the time. I would go and get their children and disappear with them for a long time. My sisters would be wondering where the kids were, but they knew they were in safe hands. When you get married in this kind of context, it's not only you who gets married, it's the whole tribe. Every single person in that tribe, in that village, in your family is going to get married that day. You are the one giving them the opportunity to do that. And so people in the villages will say, I'm getting married on such and such day, even though it is someone else's actual wedding. If a child grows up with the idea that mom and dad are her or his own community, then when she has a problem, if the parents cannot fix it, she doesn't have anybody else to turn to. The parents alone are responsible for whoever the child becomes. And this is a little bit too much to ask of just two people. And many times, only one person is left to serve as parent. Giving a child a broader sense of community helps her not only to rely on one person. The child can go to a person of her choice, and if that person cannot fix her problem, she can go to somebody else. You know, this is why I miss my old building so bad. I used to live in a really awesome building, and it was filled with a lot of people who understood the value of community. I remember it was right after the whole world shut down, kind of in that transition period where things were still closed and I didn't have a regular care provider. And one of my neighbors was a college student, and I had an appointment to go get this tattoo. And I thought to myself, oh man, like, because she had told me previously, like, hey, I'm, just kind of doing my thing. If you ever need anyone to care for your kids, let me know. She was a super awesome person. We would exchange like food back and forth whenever we were cooking, and that's just how the building was. There was a donation spot. We all kind of used to put things in the donation spot for other people. We would all help each other out throughout the entire closure. There were days where, the other parents, because there were a lot of people who were worked in healthcare or like were doing like DoorDash or whatever, or worked in grocery stores. It was a super varied group of people that lived there. Huge percentage, I think, gosh, if I had to make a guess, like 60% were first generation Americans or recently like immigrated people. And we would, like, honestly, it helped me keep my sanity throughout that entire time, because we were and it wasn't a few people. It was 5 floors, 2 towers. The building was absolutely huge. And with all of the kids being out of school, there was an outreach liaison who would do like coloring groups and things to kind of get the kids together so they could still actually socialize and help with their online homework and things like that. We would have the community exchanges. When the other parents had to work, there was like a rooftop playground, because on the parks out here, they had like caution tape and police tape and everything closing up the parks. Like, we weren't supposed to bring our kids to the playgrounds. So there was a rooftop playground, and, I would hang out there with my kids and other families' kids, and I would bring water balloons, and some of them would bring squirt guns, and I would come with like a whole box of popsicles or big bags of chips, and we would all just kind of take care of each other's children and take care of each other during that time. But looping back around, when I went to go get my tattoo, I said, oh, well, I'll pay you for watching the kids. And she said to me, she was like, no, we don't do that in my culture. We watch people's children because it's the right thing to do. And I asked her multiple times, like, are you sure? Because, in the culture that I grew up in, if someone is not like, your mom, your auntie, or your bestie, like, you pay them to watch your kids, And we did the back and forth, and I kept trying to give her money, and she kept, giving it back. And it was so interesting, and that felt so loving. That was probably the second time in my life where I've really, really felt a super strong community influence. And it's just beautiful. At some point, we'll probably get around to the first time. A little shy about that because it's it was an embarrassing situation to be in, but it was one of the best ones of my life. I hate to say it, but love to see it, I guess. Hate to say it, but love to see it. In any case. Because we are human beings, we are restricted as to what we can do or give. So in raising children, we definitely need the support of other people. It's like we say in the village, it takes a whole village to raise a child. It's also true to say it takes a whole village to keep parents sane. When couples have children without a community to support them, they don't have much time to work out whatever is going on between themselves. And so things pile up. And even when their children are gone, they suddenly realize that there is this mountain of things that has not been dealt with for years. And so they start to dig in. And when they cannot resolve their problems, you know what people do. They leave without even saying goodbye. A lot of people divorce after their children leave home. I think the absence of community support in childbearing is one of the main causes. Could be. How can we move toward a more sane family structure or relationship structure? The main thing I see at this point is community. Building communities where you can trust one another, where you can help a mother who is crying because she has a child who is crying and she doesn't know what to give her. You know, in the village, when you get up in the morning, the first thing you do is go outside. But here, one day I was sitting all day inside without going out. And it occurred to me that this was the first time in my life I'd ever done that, except when I wasn't feeling well. To get up in the morning and not go out among people is absolutely inconceivable to somebody in the village. Because when you stay all day inside, it means that something isn't going right with you, and people worry about you. And so we can begin by going outside, talking to our neighbors and helping each other out. It's small steps like this. It's like what we say, if you have a baby, you don't throw her away because she's small. You keep her and keep nurturing her, knowing that one day she's going to be a grown-up. So these are the kinds of smart things we can do, nurturing so many small relationships so that one day community can happen. I didn't even realize that that's what I had started doing lately. Every morning I get up with my lemon water. And there are two spots that I can sit. There's a church that's right next door. And if it's Monday through Saturday, I'll go and sit on the church steps with my lemon water, or every so often my coffee. And I'll sit out there and I'll wave, say hi to all of my neighbors. You know, there's the parents and kids that are leaving for school in the morning, and I'll chit chat with them. And the building that I live in now, it's there's a very large percentage of like older people. There's elderly or disabled people in my building, as well as families with children. That's primarily who it caters to. And, you know, I go and wave to everyone, talk to everyone, see the neighbors walking their dog. They're, the little old ladies that'll sit out front and we'll talk about the mist or the weather and watch the birds. And it's honestly so very fulfilling if you don't already have a practice of, going outside. It started with me just wanting to see the sunrise, because the sunrises out here in the Pacific Northwest are, as far as everywhere I've lived, are unmatched. This morning, the sky was pink and purple with like this light blue underneath the clouds, and it was just so beautiful. It was absolutely insane. And none of my ladies were outside at 7 this morning because it was super cold and everyone is on break, so none of the families walking their kids to school were there. The ground was slippery because there was a little bit of a freeze last night, and I missed it. I thought, where is everybody this morning? But I still got to enjoy the birds. There were lots of ducks that were flying outside, and that was absolutely fantastic. But do you ever just say or do something and you think, I just fucking love my life? I fucking love my life. It's like that, I think it was American Beauty with the plastic bag that was like, was it a plastic bag or a paper bag? I have to rewatch that movie. But it was just, that was a really good one. But it was just floating around in the wind. And I remember the voiceover. Was that American Beauty? Yeah, that was the kid. That was the filmmaker. The documentarian? Was it I really need to rewatch that movie again. I'm like itching to see it now. Maybe I'll do that after the kids go to bed tomorrow. But he said sometimes there's so much beauty in the world, I just can't take it. And the way that he said it, I just can't take it. Like it hurt him just to get the words out, because life is just so beautiful sometimes. It makes my eyes do a little squee, and like a little tear just gets ready to fall out. Real talk, real time. I fucking love my life. Yowza. Whew. But yeah, go sit on your freaking front porch. Go sit on your stoop. That building it was my third time feeling community. First was in San Francisco. I think that's what I miss so much about SF. Is me and all my friends, we were a bunch of nuts, right? A bunch of crazies. And we all had our little apartments, and we do our sleepovers and have our house parties or whatever. Sit on the porch or on the stoop. On the stoop. On the stoop at 7 a.m. drinking tequila and squirt out of coffee mugs, because squirt citrus, it's a breakfast drink, right? Or doing the drop-ins to each other's houses for no reason. Waking up in the morning and stopping at someone's place on the way to work just to make a trip to the bodega with all the dust on top of the cans. Those dusty ass cans. Oh my gosh. And the little random things like the slap bracelets and the little mini flashlights. Going to the store that sold stripper heels and orthotic shoes. Oh. Going to the Gold Dust. Oh, it's closed now. Going to the Gold Dust and sitting there with all the old men playing their band, hearing stories. Oh man. Going, oh man. That was a great time. Before tech moved in. And I'm sure even before I moved to San Francisco, I'm sure it was even more so in a tight-knit community in the 90s, the 80s, the 70s. I was there in the early 2000s. Going out to Golden Gate Park and seeing all the kids that dropped acid hanging out in the trees and running into a live band. Oh my gosh, I really feel like this is your life moment. I am so lucky and so blessed. If you've never felt community, by all means, do something to find it. Join a soccer league, go to an AA meeting, do something. Because there's nothing better. There's literally nothing better. Man. Oy. Just can't take it. In the village, people cannot believe that just Malidoma and I live in a whole house. It's completely inconceivable. They wonder why we have a whole house, especially when I tell them that it is really big compared with the houses we have in the village. It's really huge, I told my mother, and she just shook her head and said, "What are you doing this for?" I explained to her that everyone has his own place and there's no village to go to, that there's no family where we live, I told her. "You might want to come and live with me." And she said, "No, not under those conditions." It is as difficult for Indigenous people to conceive of life without a community as it is for most Westerners to imagine living a life in a community. To create a community that will work for people here, there is a need to look carefully at some of the fundamentals of a healthy community: spirit, children, elders, responsibility, gift-giving, accountability, ancestors, and ritual. These elements form the base of a community, and it doesn't have to start with a lot of people. I'd rather have a circle of a few good friends and be a community with them than just get lost in a crowd of people who don't care at all. Intimacy, the natural attraction of two human beings to each other, is something that the elders say is actually prompted by spirit, and spirit brings together in order to give them the opportunity to grow together. That growth is directly connected to the gifts that two people are capable of providing to the village. And this is why when a couple is in trouble, the whole village is in trouble. People in the village will involve themselves in the problems of a couple and dissect them and make sure that they fix them because their interests are at risk So community support is not entirely altruistic. People are not necessarily committing to help the couple. They are coming to help themselves. If a couple is in trouble, those around them may not get what they need. When we start to feel a problem, we tend to think it's just two people who are involved, and we forget about the fact that spirit is there. We tend to forget that we have allies who can bring us strength. We forget to ask for help from friends or family members. In the village, it's easier for people because every morning when you wake up, somebody will come and ask you, "Did you hear something sweet last night?" And if you remain silent or you say no, then the person will get worried because something is wrong. If you didn't hear something good, it means that something sour must have taken the place of the good. They will then get to the bottom of that problem before it gets out of control. It's not surprising every morning to see women just gather and start to talk about things, and if need be, go toward the bushes and start to walk away from the compound because there is something that needs to be taken care of. This reminds me of the importance that gender plays in relationships. Without help from people of the same gender, it's pretty hard to maintain a balance in your relationship. A woman should not expect her husband to take the place of her women friends and to care for her in the same way. Similarly, a man should not expect his wife to take the place of male friends. Being a woman does not mean you have nothing to do with masculine energy. Similarly, being a man does not mean you have nothing to do with the feminine. Vaginas and penises are not the only things that define our sexual nature. Our lives are influenced by the presence within us of both feminine and masculine energies. It is important that these energies maintain harmony within us. There are things that men do in order to nourish what they call their female self, and things that women have to do in order to nourish their male self. In the village, once a year, men who have gone through initiation together meet at the same spot where they were initiated and have a ritual that looks something like mothering. Their behavior is a kind of strict male-to-male emotional exchange. There's something about it that breaks down the narcissistic feeling that comes with managing responsibilities. Even though it's not a funeral where men, women, and children can cry together, the men cry as much as they want. There's a need to reawaken the part of the self that is in touch with emotion, and this ritual allows them to do so without waiting until somebody dies. There is a caretaking, not prescribed, but a random caretaking that goes on. Someone, because of inner pressure of some sort, will break down, and someone else will take care of him. And while taking care of him, the caretaker too is going to break down, and someone is going to come and join them, so it becomes a continuous support and nurturing ritual. It makes it easier for some reason when the men come back for them to stop feeling that they have to invoke some kind of control within the ritual space of intimacy. In other words, when the sense of responsibility and being a man in the community stops overwhelming someone who has participated in this ritual, the circle of intimacy they create within their partner becomes closer to what spirit wants. The belief is that the male tends to put on his warrior mode even in the ash circle of intimacy, when the warrior self has not been tamed by some kind of motherly energy, it is almost impossible for a man to engage in intimate relations with his partner. I love that. You know, there are a lot of different accounts on Instagram that have to do with creating both male and female, or masculine and feminine solidarity. And I love seeing it. I love to see it. It's absolutely beautiful. The breathwork retreats, the yoga retreats, the divine feminine womb healing retreats. We can't do this thing called life alone. And I always hear these things, you know, almost mockingly, that get tossed around, you know, that men should just marry their bros. But I feel like that comes from a misunderstanding of what solidarity and community actually is. Like, men need bro time, and women need, you know, what would you even call it now? Girly pop time? I don't know, girly pop, that's a thing. But, you know, women need time with their group as well. Like, the masculine and feminine energies, they need time to themselves. And I feel again like this is one of those moments where I'm kind of on the precipice of an idea. There's something that's brewing in the back of my head here. Boom. Got it. Give me 1 sec, I have to write this down. Oh my gosh, I was working out so hard this week. Whew, my body is like crickety crack, crickety crack, crickety crack. So let me write this down so I don't forget it. Be right back. Oh my gosh, this is going to be such a huge journaling night for me, and it's already so late. Ay, 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 ay. Canta, no llores. This is going to be such a big journaling night for me tonight. I swear, I swear, I swear. In the village, in order for the feminine and the masculine energies to live harmoniously, women and men must commit themselves to work at balancing their sexual energies. When either energy dominates, it becomes overpowering and can threaten the stability of the village. For this reason, women not only gather up on a yearly basis with their initiation sisters, but they also get together as often as they can and go to a cave or go to the bush. There we do a set of rituals in order to build our masculine energy by acting out our rage and anger and by taking on men's roles. Then we go hunting, even though killing is not the emphasis of the ritual, because women usually do not kill in the village. It allows women to be outwardly. This is usually followed by the warrior's dance that young men learn while being initiated into manhood. All women dress like men throughout the duration of the ritual. Some women wear beards and mustaches. Usually, the puree, the female father, is there, and she will ensure that the masculine energy is being built. If you did not know her beforehand, you would think that she was a man. The tone of her voice, the look of her eyes, and everything else about her carries masculine energy. One by one, the women go to her. First, there is a foot-to-foot connection, then a head-to-head connection. This helps to seal the experience. When we go back home, there is a small welcoming ritual. We are all received into our homes in such a way that we don't start to build upon our renewed masculine energy and become completely masculine, nor do we go back to being completely in the feminine energy. We accept the tradition that women must work with women in order to build a feminine identity, and that men must work with men in order to build a masculine identity. This way, when a man and a woman come together, they are better able to relate to each other. There is something in the indigenous world that compels gender groups to get together in order to work certain things out. I see similar practices in the West in what is called feminism and in the men's movement. These are ways for women and men to better build their relationships, not only with their gender, but also with the other sex. You will notice in many villages in Africa that during the days women are all together, men are all together too. This is not a sexist practice. It's just that for some reason, there's a feeling that a clear sense of otherness is essential to a harmonious coming together with your mate. Today, we are not called upon to wage war with the opposite gender. We need to embrace the new millennium with a brand new eye, a new heart, one that allows for mutual respect. Women and men live their own mysteries, and neither gender will ever fully grasp the other. The model of the village The model of the village is there not to encourage sexism, nor to make men and women the same, but to create an environment in which both genders appreciate and honor the other. I have rambled for so much tonight. I see my timer flashing here. So, wowzers, we're going to go ahead and end there. Chapter 4, Ritual to Call the Spirit, is what is the reading for tomorrow night. I'm going to be, since it's break, me and the kids are going to be staying up kind of late. So I'll go ahead and say 10 p.m. PST tomorrow. We're going to be going into chapter 4, Ritual to Call the Spirit. I have gotten so many ideas, so many blessings, was able to relive so many memories tonight. So thank you so much for letting me read you a bedtime story. And much love this holiday season, yeah? Much love to you. Build that community. I love you.